Guys, I just got back to the shop. I think I got to get a tire plugged tomorrow. But guys, I'm making this video. This is something I thought about the other week. I was actually going to make this last week's GMC Talks, but guys, I mentioned this the other week, not on YouTube, but I think I put this up on Instagram. Guys, if you've been in the HVAC industry long enough, you're going to have that one heater or that one AC unit that's going to really kick your ass. And like I said, hopefully it doesn't happen too many times. Like, hopefully you guys, for the most part, hopefully, you guys can figure out what's going on in a timely manner. But this ties back to what I was telling you guys a few weeks back. Like, sometimes if you're going through like a tough job, I'm talking like a no heat or a no AC call. If you guys are in the no AC call or no heat call, sometimes instead of getting frustrated, sometimes you got to charge it to the game, laugh it off, and you got to know that, like I said, guys, it's some equipment, like I said, it's been working for years, allegedly, but there's some units out there that look, even the best of us, like sometimes it may take you a while to figure out what's going on. But guys, I'm going to talk to you about this one boiler. And guys, this one boiler, we ended up actually replacing this boiler. But guys, I definitely wanted to see that boiler run. And like I was telling you guys from before, like, I'm Garrett's, my satisfaction comes towards fixing. Like, I want to finish what I start. If I go out to a no heat call or a no AC call, like, I want to make sure that I can actually fix the unit. Like, it's weird. It's not really about the money. The customer satisfaction is great, but like, I do take some personal satisfaction in actually seeing a unit work that wasn't working before I got there. It's kind of weird, guys, but like with this particular boiler, and guys, hold on, let me check my battery. All right, I'm at 70%. So like, check this out, guys. Like with this one boiler, this was a regular customer. This had to have been like probably within our first 2 years of starting a business. Like, this had to have been, this is like right when we started doing home warranty calls. Like, we started dealing with home warranty companies at some point in like late 2016, early 2017. But like, this had to have been like a regular customer like that found us right during the time that we was doing all these home warranty calls. So like, guys, make a long story short, like, this one was a no heat call, and the guy had a regular hydronic boiler. I think he had baseboards. It was a single zone, and he had baseboards. I think it was like a 2-level baseboard house. And guys, when I got there, I went through my Monday morning quarterback. For you guys that don't know, Monday morning quarterback, that's just your diagnosing, how you go from A to B and how you go from B to C. But guys, I went through my progression. As soon as I got there, no heat call, the customer said that, yeah, the boiler was working fine last week. And that's when he noticed that, the house got cold. He couldn't get the thermostat like above 65 degrees. So as soon as I go there, I turn the thermostat on, and this customer only had one thermostat. Very simple setup, nothing complex. I go there, guys, and like, as soon as I go there, I notice the pilot light is out. So I'm like, all right, let me try to relight the pilot. Trying to relight the pilot, it didn't light. So instantly, guys, I'm like, all right, and this is a standing pilot hot water boiler, by the way. This is a standing pilot gas hot water boiler. So instantly, guys, like, I go through my progressions. I couldn't get the thermocouple relit. I tried putting in a new thermocouple. It still didn't light. So I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe it's the gas valve. Guys, listen to this, right? And like I said, I'm going to tell you how long I was there in a second, guys. But I replaced the thermocouple. It didn't work. I replaced the gas valve. That's the first thing I quoted him for. I'm like, look, we tried to relight the pilot. It didn't work. We tried replacing the pilot. It still didn't work. I'm like, now the next step is the gas valve. And I'm like, I asked him, I'm like, hey, sir, before we replace this gas valve, is there anything else that was done to the boiler? He said no. Now, guys, I'm taking everything this guy says on face value. So like, everything he's telling me, that's the only thing I have to go off of. This is our first time here. So I'm like, all right, nothing was done. And nothing looks, everything looks 30 years old. Nothing was like brand new. But yeah, guys, so I replaced the, he says, okay, let's do what you got to do to get it up and going. So guys, I go to the supply house. I put a new gas valve in this boiler. And for you guys that are just getting on, I'm telling you about this one boiler that still gives me nightmares. Like I said, everybody got that one system. Hopefully you don't have too many stories like this, but everybody got that one heater, that one AC system that kick your ass. I got to tell you about mine, because I thought about this last week. But guys, make a long story short, it was a no heat call on a standard pilot gas hot water boiler. I go there, pilot lights out. I replace the pilot. I go to the supply house. I get a new gas valve, and I replace the gas valve. And now I got the pilot light on, guys. So now I'm like, all right, now we're getting somewhere. Now listen to this shit. It was an aquastat, right? And like, guys, I remember this like it was yesterday, no lie. I was getting, the circulator pump was running, but the pilot light was out. So like, I knew it was no point in me checking for power at the circulator pump because I heard the circulator pump running. So I'm like, all right. As soon as I go to the supply house, I turn the buller off. I come back, I pop in a new gas valve, and like, as soon as I get the pilot light on, I didn't hear my circulator pump running. And I'm like, wait, I know I didn't cross any wires. Like, what's going on? As soon as I get the pilot light on, I didn't hear the ignition. I'm like, hold on, what's going on? Like, and guys, sure enough, as soon as I put the new gas valve in, that's when I had power at my circulator pump, but it wasn't running. And I'm like, yo, like, you can't make this shit up. And guys, sure enough, man, I put the gas valve in and I brought the customer downstairs again. And I'm like, look, I mean, this is an example of a compound issue. I'm like, when I got here, I couldn't get the pilot light on. Now I replaced the pilot in the valve. Now I have the pilot on. Now the pump isn't running. So now we're gonna have to I gave him a quote for replacing the pump. And guys, we did all this. And mind you, remember, guys, this is a baseboard setup. He doesn't have bleeder vents. He doesn't have radiators with bleeder vents. So like, guys, he has drain valves. For you guys that work on hydronic boilers, you guys know the easiest thing to do is to fill the boiler up and bleed air from the radiators. But he didn't have radiators. He had baseboards. So like, guys, for you guys that don't know, you know, it may take some time, but bleeding baseboards from the boiler, you're gonna have to get the bucket, get the hose, and you have to take the bucket outside, and you're gonna have to overfill the bucket. So like, imagine, like I said, all this happened like after 2 o'clock. So like, guys, I'm already like almost 2 hours into this job. I drained the boiler down, went to the supply house again. I come back with the 007 circulator pump, guys, and now I put the circulator pump in. And guys, as soon as I put the circulator pump in, now once again I drained the boiler down. There is no ball valves, guys, so I had to drain everything down. As soon as I come back with the circulator pump, I put the circulator pump in. I filled everything up to like 10 to 12 psi. I just wanted to make sure my circulator pump was running before I go upstairs, guys. And this is where shit goes left, guys. I put the circulator pump in. I filled the boiler up to like 10 to 12 psi. I'm like, before I go crazy with the pressure, let me make sure that my pump is running. Turn the boiler on, and like, sure enough, my pump is running, and now I got ignition. Now I'm like, all right, before I do anything else, let me fill my hot water boiler up to like 20, and let me go to the truck and get my hose so I can take the hose outside in the backyard and like overfill it. Guys, listen to this shit. And let me look at the comments here, because sometimes I be getting carried away here. Cause you gotta talk English, my man. But listen to this though, right? So instantly, I got my hose out the truck, and at this point, guys, I'm outside and the boiler is running. So like, to my knowledge, like I said, the boiler is running. I hear the burners on, and I know my circulator pump is drawing amps. I go outside. As soon as I come back in with my hose, the customer's like, yo, I think something's leaking upstairs. No bullshit, guys. As soon as I go upstairs, he had at least 3 or 4 baseboards cracked. I think maybe because the heat wasn't working for so long, and it was cold at this point of the year. It's like in December, guys. As soon as I refilled it, the guy was like, yo, something's leaking upstairs. I go upstairs. Instantly, he has water coming out on the first floor kitchen in the living room. The baseboards are busted. And I'm like, yo, like, you cannot make this up. And like, instantly, guys, I'm like, all right, you know what? Hold on. Let me turn the boiler off. I drained the water down to stop the water from leaking upstairs. And guys, don't get me wrong. Like I said, we try our best to help customers out. But sometimes, I'm talking you as the service tech, sometimes before you get too nearsighted and try to fix every single thing that you see, sometimes you got to step back and say, wait a minute, like, is this adding up? Like, what's going on here? And guys, remind you, I told you, the customer told me that, like I said, it was working, allegedly, and he said nothing got done. Guys, I'm already like almost 4 hours in. I put a new circulator pump in. I put a new pilot in. Like, and at this point, I drained everything down, getting ready to bleed the boiler down to take the air out. And guys, as soon as I noticed, like I said, he had like at least 5 or 6 lengths of, he had at least 5 or 6 baseboards on the first floor. I don't know about the second floor, because I didn't get the pressure up that high to troubleshoot the second floor. But guys, as soon as I seen the baseboards, I'm like, bro, in the back of my mind, I didn't tell the customers, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, yo, there's no way in hell this boiler was running recently. Like, baseboards don't crack like within 2 days. And I'm like, I wonder, like I said, this customer even used this boiler. And I'm like, in the back of my mind, guys, I'm like, you know what? all right, at this point, I'm like, I'm probably gonna have to give this customer a quote for baseboards, but I'm like, at this point, based on what he already paid to like get the to get the pilot, get the gas valve replaced and the circulator, I'm like, the amount of money you already put into this, like, is it even worth keeping the heater, at all? And this is like a 30-year-old boiler. And like, as soon as I brought it up to the customer's attention, he was like, well, by the way, I actually just bought this place. And he goes, I've been using space heaters, but one of my family members, he told me about this. And like I said, guys, it's weird. He bought the house knowing that it was a hydronic boiler there, but he didn't use it. So I'm like, okay. But he was like, yeah, one of my family members told me that I have a central heating system, but he was like, I'm used to using electric space heaters. And he goes, I didn't know this thing was down here. So, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm like, look, my man, like, I can give you a quote for doing the baseboards and all this, but I'm like, based on the age and condition of the boiler, based on what we already put into this, it's up to you if you want to keep this boiler down here. And I'm like, I gave him the option of keeping that boiler, and like I said, just installing baseboards, and I gave him the option of doing new baseboards on the first floor. And I think the second floor was okay because he had space heaters up there, but most of the baseboards on the first floor is all cracked, and like, we're not talking like a coupling leaking, we're talking like actually split. So like, all that stuff had to get cut out and like repiped in. But like, guys, like, I gave him a quote for doing both, keeping an old boiler and running new baseboard, and also I gave him a quote for ripping everything out. So like, eventually we came back there in a few weeks to rip out the baseboard and rip out the boiler. But guys, like I said, I mentioned this early in the video, guys. Like, I really take personal satisfaction. This has nothing to do with the customer. This has nothing to do with money. I take personal satisfaction in seeing the job all the way through. I actually wanted to see that boiler work because, like, guys, think about it. Like, if you're already down there, I don't even think about this. Forget the money. If you're already 4 hours invested into a job, you already put in a new thermocouple, you already put in a new gas valve, you already put in a new circulator pump. Wouldn't you want to see that unit run? Like, we're not doing this just for nothing. Like, you actually want to complete a job. But like, as soon as I invested all that time running back and forth to supply houses, I had to make at least 2 different trips to the supply house for that valve and for the pump. And I'm like, if I'm making all these stops, like, I really want to see this unit run somewhat. You know what I'm saying? But guys, like, that was a lesson learned for me. And I tell you guys like this, once again, you can ask the customer the same thing I did. You can ask the customer in regards to like what was done there before. But sometimes, guys, you have to verify what you see with your own eyes. Like, even if the customer said that, yeah, some work got done, sometimes you never know, guys. If the previous company, told the customer vaguely what was going on, most customers are not going to remember unless the previous company left it in some type of paperwork or email. But like, most of the time, guys, you can't really rely on, like I said, what the customer tell you. It's good for like, just to give you a premise of what's going on, but ultimately, guys, like, you always have to verify things with your own eyes, but make sure you know all this before you use your tool bag, like, and guys, knowing what I know now, once again, this is back in 2016 with this boiler, like, knowing what I know now, like, anytime I see a boiler past a certain age, now I know before I do anything to the boiler, let me go upstairs and let me look at the radiators or baseboards. If I notice any baseboards or radiators cracked, instantly I'm gonna say, all right, you know what, man reserve, besides the boiler, now you have an additional issue, and if they tell me that, hey, this unit was working the whole time with a cracked radiator or boiler, or a cracked radiator or baseboard, if it's no isolation valve, I'm probably gonna call them out and say that it's impossible unless they know there's water on the floor every single time the boiler ran. So like, guys, like I said, the customer didn't deny that the unit wasn't running. He, maybe like I said, he didn't really know what was down there, but I chalked that one to the game. But like I said, guys, like, I definitely wanted to see that unit run. But sometimes, guys, like I said, it's not in the cards, and I can tell you from like a service background, like, like I said, your job is to fix damn near everything that you put your hands on. Like I said, whether it be a heat pump, furnace, boiler, but guys, you got some equipment out there, like I said, we all see this every year, if not every other year. We all see equipment that just doesn't make any damn sense. You can try your best, like I said, you can even have tech support from the manufacturer. Like, some pieces of equipment, you just have to tip your hat off and say, you know what, this motherfucker got me today. And that's, guys, like, that's what I had to do, because I was upset. Even though we got to sell on that boiler, I was upset because I'm like, man, I wanted to actually fix this. I wanted to fill this thing up. I already had my 50-foot boiler hose. I'm like, perfect. He already had a basement cellar door for me to bleed air out the system. I'm like, damn, like, But like I said, guys, I know most of you guys had that word satisfaction too, in regards to like, you wanted to fix everything you troubleshooting, like I said, that's a good problem to have, you know. But sometimes, guys, you don't want to get too nearsighted. Like I said earlier, you don't want to get too nearsighted, and now you're trying to overly fix something that you know is probably not going to work, you know. And think about it, guys. Like there's a gray area. I'm not saying, you know, I don't want you guys to be incompetent and not know how to do anything, but gosh, sometimes if, you know, you got to be competent at a bare minimum. But like if you try to like overly fix things, like sometimes you got to stop yourself and say, okay, wait a minute, like is what I'm doing really gonna, you know, is this going to be a permanent solution, or am I getting ready to make a band-aid? And like, guys, like I said, based on the situation, I'm like, there's nothing I can do or tell the customer that's going to fix these baseboards. And like I said, you know, based on the condition of that boiler, I'm like, I can only diagnose what I see, but based on the fact that we don't even know how long that boiler was running for before, it could have been down for like a couple of years. And I'm like, I really don't trust anything, you know, that I'm seeing right now with the piping or anything like that. I'm like, I'd rather start with a clean slate, you know, with a new boiler. And like I said, you know, we can cut any cracked or you know, broken piping, whether it be on the first floor or the second floor. And like I said, guys, that was you know, that job was pretty plug and play. You know, we didn't have to open up any walls or anything like that. But yeah, guys, like I said, I had to run this. I got a shitload full of crazy stories, like in regards to, like, say, heating stuff and AC stuff. But I'll be sure to put more up, like I said, guys. But what time is it? I got to get to the gym in a little bit. But yeah, guys, there you have it. I got to roll. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.